Sorry, we weren't recording. Yeah. So as I was telling you, long ago, at one point of time, there were red Indians, right? In what you call the Native Americans, before Europeans actually traveled there and started migrating and settling there. There were an indigenous tribe of Indians there, not our Indians, South what you call American Indians, red Indians bolte the उन लोगों को. They used to hunt. Okay, they used to hunt animals and all for food and whatever they were using them for. And the equipment that they used to use was a bow and arrow. Especially the bow arrow or the spear that they used was dipped in one particular type of poison. Okay, it was not exactly poison as such. It was a very special type of alkaloid called curare. Okay, that alkaloid's name was curare. What curare did was, whenever it hit an animal or whenever you injected curare into an animal, either through a arrow or through a spear, either way, uh, that curare would cause paralysis. Okay, the animal would not be able to move anymore, and it would be much more easier to kill the animal. From that curare, what happened later on was scientists studied what are the effects of curare, and later on found out that it causes extreme skeletal muscle relaxation. If there is extreme skeletal muscle relaxation, meaning you do not have any muscle tone at all. See, whenever you are trying to move a muscle, there is constant tension being maintained in your muscle so that you can move them. Okay, obviously your bones play a huge role, but until and unless your muscles are initiating the movement, your bones cannot move, right? Even if you just take your hand and move it up, at that point of time you can clearly feel that one or the other, either your extensor muscle or your flexor muscle, either one of them are contracting, creating tension, because of which you are able to move. Yahan par what curare does is it will completely flatten that muscle tone. So muscle tone decreases to a point where the muscle will not be able to move at all, causing paralysis. ठीक है, उसको flaccid paralysis बोलते हैं. Spastic paralysis is a different kind of paralysis in which the muscles are so tense that you cannot move it. Both are different, but both are different types of paralysis. Curare causes flaccid paralysis. At least extreme amounts of curare causes flaccid paralysis, which red Indians used to kill animals. What later on happened was, from that curare, several alkaloids were what you call extracted, and curare being the main alkaloid, and from that several drugs were made. The primary drug that you get from it is tubercularin. Okay, that is a skeletal muscle relaxant, safer to use in humans. You have other ones as well. You will have synthetic ones as well, but this is one natural kind of what do you call, natural type of uh, curare alkaloid or curare analog. Okay. Now coming to pharmacological effects of tubercularin, I hope you understood what I just told you. Pharmacological actions. If you're having doubts, please feel free to ask anytime. Okay, stop me at any point. Coming to pharmacological actions of tubercularin, it will have a wide range of effects. Specifically, we'll start with skeletal muscles. Okay. On skeletal muscle, especially when you parenterally administer tubercularin, when you inject tubercularin, it causes muscle weakness followed by, so it causes muscle weakness followed by, F by B is followed by flaccid paralysis. Flaccid paralysis specifically happens because muscle tone is lost. Okay. Ultimately, what happens is, after flaccid paralysis occurs, the muscles of your eye, the muscles of your finger, they are affected. After that, limb, neck, and trunk are affected. So initially, your what you call muscle weakness occurs, wherein flaccid paralysis occurs. So it will start off with muscles of your eyes, your ciliary muscles, and all of them. Fingers, they get affected first, then limbs, neck, and trunk. Okay. Ultimately, what happens is intercostal muscles get affected. What are intercostal muscles? Who is intercostal muscle? अपल्ला पूरा अस्थमा पढ़ लिए, अभी इंटरकोस्टल मसल याद नहीं रहा तो कैसा? I'm not able to hear you, Akshay. I can see that your microphone is moving, but I'm not able to hear you. You can put it in the chat as well if any one of you are having difficulties with your microphone. What are intercostal muscles? Hmm. Acha, ठीक है, that will be your homework then. Find out what are intercostal muscles and tell me tomorrow. Between the ribs muscle. Acha, muscles present between the rib. What do they do? Hmm? I'm not able to hear you clearly.
Contraction and relaxation of the thorax.
Again, you're not clear, Akshay. Voice is breaking off.
The
Very, very.
contraction and relaxation of thorax region.
Hello in expanding, to expansion. They help in expansion or
So
contraction or both.
the contraction of the relaxation, contraction and relaxation of thorax when the inhaling and exhaling of
Mm, exactly. They make sure they act like literally like rubber bands for your what do you call ribs. Once you exhale, your ribs need to come back to their normal position after your lungs have been deflated, or else their ribs will start poking out of your body. Okay. At that point, you need your intercostal muscles to pull them in. That is again a very gross simplification, but that is what your intercostal muscles will do. They'll make sure that your ribs are tightly knit, and they'll what you call expand and contract based on your breathing pattern. All right. There are other functions of intercostal muscles as well, but that is the most primary function. Now, what happens is ultimately when you give this tubercularin, ultimately what happens is it will stop respiration. At a high enough dose, it can stop respiration. Okay, because it is what you call inhibiting intercostal muscles, it is causing paralysis of your intercostal muscles and your diaphragm. It can stop respiration. You will have to give a particular how do I put it, antidote for this called neostigmine. Now neostigmine क्या है, अपन परसों ही पढ़े थे ना. What is neostigmine? It is related to acetylcholine. What does it do to acetylcholine? I'll just put it here. Antidote to tubercularin is neostigmine. Why and how? So you can also tell what does neostigmine do. वो तभी बोले तो बस है. परसों परसों ही खत्म करे वो लेसन. Acha, if you're not able to tell it in this class, then tell it in the next class. Okay, I'll keep a note of all these questions that I'm asking, and I'll ask you again tomorrow. So one thing it caused on skeletal muscles was it causes paralysis, flaccid paralysis specifically of that muscle. Consciousness is not affected. Consciousness isn't affected. So the patient remains conscious because these are peripherally acting. They will not cause any central effects. That is the main difference. Okay, centrally acting, agar muscle relaxant रहता तो the patient's consciousness would have been affected. Like diazepam. Diazepam generally causes drowsiness and sedation. Right. These are peripherally acting. They will not cause any effect centrally. Okay. Effects will last around 60 minutes. Effects will last in between 30 to 60 minutes depending on several factors. 60 minutes. ठीक है, dose, patient susceptibility, क्या क्या की रहते. So that is on your skeletal muscles. On autonomic ganglia, high doses of tubercularin can cause, or they can literally block autonomic ganglia. Autonomic ganglia can get blocked at high doses. Even your adrenal medulla. So autonomic ganglia and adrenal medulla If adrenal medulla gets blocked, what will happen? Your catecholamines will not be released. Your catecholamines being noradrenaline, norepinephrine, dopamine, all of those. Right? This can ultimately lead to hypotension. Okay? This is one effect of tuberculosis. It will block your autonomic ganglia and it will block adrenal medulla functions, normal functions of autonomic ganglia and adrenal medulla, because of which at high dose especially, it can lead to hypotension and it will cause histamine release, okay, from mast cells. Causes histamine release from mast cells. This can ultimately lead to, especially if it is in your bronchial space, it will cause increased amount of bronchial and gastric secretions. Increased bronchial and gastric secretions. If there is increased amount of bronchial and gastric secretions, it can lead to bronchospasm and hypertension. Both, because histamine causes vasodilation peripherally. If you remember when we were discussing about asthma, I told you histamine, especially that which is of H1, can cause, if it is working on H1 receptor in your lungs, can cause vasoconstriction, whereas if it is working on H2 receptors, it will cause vasodilation. That is peripherally. Everywhere other than your lungs, it will cause vasodilation. In your lungs, it will cause vasoconstriction. That is why in asthma there is a problem. It will cause smooth muscle constriction and smooth muscle vasoconstriction. Here, elsewhere, it will cause vasodilation. That is why hypertension occurs. Okay. Now, to counter all of these effects, in case you have given tuberculosin or some analog of tuberculosin by mistake or in higher doses, you can immediately give neostigmine. Neostigmine will reverse the effect of skeletal muscle paralysis caused due to tuberculosin. Okay. Toxicity obviously can be, if you have given a toxic dose, that also can be reversed using neostigmine. And you can use an antihistamine drug. Okay, something like ranitidine can be used to counter the effect of histamine. If there is excessive histamine secretion because of which bronchospasm and hypertension is occurring, you can use an antihistamine drug. So that was about your tuberculosis. You will also have some synthetic blockers, synthetic competitive blockers. Okay, these synthetic competitive blockers, what they will do is, see, non-depolarizing agents like tuberculosin, their main mechanism of action is that they will bind with nicotinic receptors at your motor end plate. So if I have my, let's suppose this is a neuron here and this is a muscle. Let's suppose this is a skeletal muscle. Okay, skeletal muscle पे nicotinic receptors रहते ना. If you have acetylcholine that is coming from here and binding here, your skeletal muscle will contract. That is how skeletal muscle, that is how acetylcholine will work. These receptors are your NM receptors because they are present in the muscle. They are NM receptors. Okay, the ones that are present in your autonomic ganglia are NN type of receptors. यहाँ पर NM receptor पे acetylcholine is coming and acting, causing muscle contraction. What tuberculosin like drugs will do is, competitive blockers, they will block this receptor. They will compete with acetylcholine and they will block the receptor on motor end plate and it will block the action of acetylcholine. So if you have that same receptor, it is being blocked by, let's suppose this is tuberculosin. This purple beta that I'm drawing is tuberculosin and it is blocking that receptor. If it blocks the receptor, what ends up happening is, even if acetylcholine is present here, these small dots representing acetylcholine, these cannot enter the receptor anymore, because of which you will not see any skeletal muscle contraction. That is how it will cause skeletal muscle relaxation. Did you understand? Or do you want me to repeat? समझ में आया नहीं आया?
Yes, sir.
Understood. Okay. Sir, okay, repeat. ठीक है. I'll draw it a little bit bigger so that. एक सेकंड रिपीट करो. आप समझो मैं tuberculosin दिया. अच्छा, for now forget about tuberculosin. Try to remember what acetylcholine does. First of all, if I have a neuron here, cholinergic neuron, which is present at your motor end plate, meaning this is the receptor that will come in direct contact with your skeletal muscle. So imagine this is the surface of your skeletal muscle, and whenever this neuron is getting fired up, it is releasing acetylcholine. This acetylcholine is coming into your synapse, especially this space near the muscle, and it is binding to your NM receptor, acetylcholine का, ठीक है, cholinergic receptor. Whenever it binds, the result will be skeletal muscle contraction, ठीक है, SMC. I'm abbreviating it. It is not called SMC. Skeletal muscle contraction होता, ठीक है, straightforward. Whenever I give tubocurarine, what it does is, this fellow tubocurarine, let's suppose it is represented in this purple, ठीक है, tubocurarine whenever it is given, this fellow will come here and it will block the receptor, ठीक है. If it is blocking the receptor like this, what will end up happening is, even if you have acetylcholine that is being released, this acetylcholine has no place to come and get lodged. If there is no what you call response from your neurotransmitter to your receptor, or if there is no attachment of the neurotransmitter to the receptor, there will be no skeletal muscle contraction. So it will ultimately cause skeletal muscle relaxation. Okay. For example, you want to get into a door, the door is locked, okay, and you have the key of the lock, but because of some dirt or something, that lock got blocked, okay, you are not able to fit the key inside, that because of which you will not be able to enter the gate, and you will not be able to enter the room or whatever. The same thing happens here. Whenever this tubocurarine is coming here and blocking that receptor, it will compete with it will compete with acetylcholine. It will not cause depolarization. This is why it is called a non-depolarizing blocker. It is called a non-depolarizing blocker. It will not cause depolarization, okay. Please be careful. It will not cause depolarization altogether. It will not affect the neuron or any way, but it will affect the muscle. It will come here, block the receptor. If it blocks the receptor, acetylcholine cannot cause contraction because that skeletal muscle receptor is blocked. If that that receptor is blocked, skeletal muscle relaxation will occur rather than contraction. That is the mechanism of action of tubocurarine. अभी समझ में आया?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, one advantage of this is this fellow will slowly get dissipated. In time, tubocurarine will get dissipated, and the effects of skeletal muscle relaxation are reversible. It is not that, see, because if you have continuous skeletal muscle relaxation, that is also a problem because it can cause paralysis. I just told you, if you have continuous amounts of skeletal muscle relaxation, this is a non-selective drug, meaning it will cause skeletal muscle relaxation all over your body. Wherever NM type of receptor is present in your body, in your heart, in your lungs, in your kidneys, wherever it is in your skeletal muscle, it will cause skeletal muscle relaxation. Okay. I don't mean heart and the surrounding structure. Skeletal muscle will not be present inside that tissue, around that structure. So it will cause relaxation in all of them, leading to paralysis. The advantage is that as you give the drug, slowly it will dissipate and it will the effect will get reversed. Considering that you have given a therapeutic dose and not a toxic dose. Okay. With these neurological agents, you have to be very, very careful. Even one small change in dosage can be toxic. Okay, most of them will be very close to what do you call क्या बोलते हैं लोगों को, narrow therapeutic index drugs. They will not be literal narrow therapeutic index, but they will have a very small range. Not as much as NTIs, but very small. If you slightly are careless, it can cause the death of the patient, or it can lead to big problems. Okay. So you can reverse this by giving neostigmine. If you give neostigmine, what will happen is it is a anticholinesterase. It will increase the amount of acetylcholine. So even if this receptor is blocked, let's suppose there are 10 receptors like this. Okay. The response on each of these will increase. Okay. Even if you are blocking one, the other receptors will work more, because of which you are getting cholinergic function. Neostigmine does that. Okay. Now, this was a natural blocker. Synthetic blockers bhi rehte. Tubocurarine is abbreviated DTC. Okay. It is represented like this. TC or DTC bolte usko. This is a natural agent. You have synthetic agents as well, which are pancuronium, atracurium, vecuronium, galamine, rocuronium. There are several drugs. There are some advantages of giving synthetic compounds. Okay, synthetic compounds will not cause histamine release, or they will cause very little histamine release. So if you are using synthetic compounds, synthetic blockers, synthetic non-depolarizing blockers. These are also that same blocker. Okay, the tuberculin was a natural agent. This is a synthetic agent. The only difference is that this is man-made. The main drugs will be pancuronium, atracurium, vecuronium. You have galamine and rocuronium. There are others as well. I'm keeping it simpler. Rocuronium, because this can get tricky to remember. So now the advantage of these synthetic agents over tuberculin is that it has less or no less or no histamine release. If there is almost little or no histamine release, you will not have any blockage of autonomic ganglia, meaning there will be no hypotension. Okay, so no hypotension. Okay, be careful. It will cause spontaneous recovery with most drugs. So recovery is very quick. Other than that, specifically rapacuronium and rocuronium have very rapid onset of action. So they will act very quickly. So generally these synthetic skeletal muscle relaxants, they are given for surgeries. Whenever you want to perform the skeletal muscle relaxation as soon as possible, you will give a synthetic kind of non-depolarizing agent, and it will cause muscle relaxation very quickly. So especially uh, rapacuronium and rocuronium have rapid onset of action. Okay, they'll act very quickly within a few minutes, and they are used specially for endotracheal intubation. If you're trying to perform endotracheal intubation, and let's suppose the patient is in anaphylactic shock and you are not able to intubate the patient, I hope you know what is intubation. If you're trying to intubate and the patient is what do you call, their skeletal muscles are contracting, because of which you are not able to intubate properly, you can give rapacuronium or rocuronium. It will cause relaxation of your neck muscles, and you'll be able to push the tube inside. Okay, very easily. Other than that, there is atracurium, which will this atracurium is very safe in renal impairment, but there is one problem. Its metabolite that can cause CNS stimulation, and it can lead to seizures. Okay, and it increases the dose of anesthetic needed. So if you are using atracurium as a skeletal muscle relaxant, remember when we studied about anesthetics, I told you that before giving anesthetic, there is pre-anesthetic drugs which you give in preparation of surgery. Skeletal muscle relaxants are one type of drug that you give before surgery. In case you are giving atracurium, the problem is that the metabolite of that drug, atracurium, will have one particular metabolite that can cause CNS stimulation. It can also lead to seizures, meaning if it is causing CNS stimulation, you'll have to increase the dose of anesthetic, because anesthetic, you are trying to decrease stimulation, and you're trying to induce drowsiness, and you're trying to induce what you call depression of your CNS rather than stimulation. You can avoid that by giving cisatracurium. Okay, one cis form of atracurium called cisatracurium, you can use that. Okay, that does not form the derivative, and you will not have any problems while doing surgery. So this is about non-depolarizing agents or non-depolarizing blockers. Then you have depolarizing blockers. So the primary depolarizing blocker that we'll be discussing is succinylcholine. Okay, you also have succinylcholine, the same name. So succinylcholine, the drug being suxamethonium. Okay. This drug resembles your acetylcholine a lot. It is literally like two acetylcholine molecules attached together. I'm not going to draw the drug structure, but it will look very similar to acetylcholine doubled. What do you call acetylcholine doubled? It will look like that. Okay. Mechanism of action is that this fellow will bind with nicotinic receptor at NMJ, and it will cause depolarization. So it will affect your neuron. If there is depolarization, there will be no transmission of impulse. That is how it is causing skeletal muscle relaxation. Now, if I take your neuron like this, and let's suppose this is what do you call the skeletal muscle, it will affect the nicotinic receptor present on this, and it will cause depolarization. If depolarization occurs, you will not have any impulses being formed. If impulse is not being formed, you will have no stimulation here itself. No, अगर nerve में ही impulse नहीं है, if there is no impulse, यहाँ पर impulse आ रहा, if I'm blocking this impulse by causing depolarization, what will happen is what you call, you will not be able to contract the muscle. Continuous depolarization may lead to flaccid paralysis, but as such, if you cause depolarization, it will not let skeletal muscle contract. Okay, so here it will affect the neuron rather than the muscle specifically. So I'll just write its mechanism of action here. Succinylcholine mechanism of action is it will binds to nicotinic receptor at NMJ. After binding, it will cause, yeah, after binding, it cause membrane depolarization. If it is causing membrane depolarization, specifically whenever it causes membrane depolarization, you'll be able to see fasciculations. So one clinical symptoms that you can see is, clinical symptom is fasciculations. Fasciculations are involuntary rapid muscle twitches. Okay, the patient's muscle will twitch. You'll be able to see movement in that muscle, but the patient is not controlling that muscle. Okay, it will be, I'm not sure whether you've seen it clinically or not, but sometimes what happens is skeletal muscle can twitch. It will not be as severe as a spasm, but it will twitch. Okay, that twitching is called fasciculation. So membrane depolarization can sometimes be seen as fasciculations. Agar membrane depolarization is persistent, normally this amount of membrane depolarization will cause relaxation of that muscle. The muscle will not be able to move anymore. It will cause what do you call, muscle relaxation. If there is persistent depolarization, in case this continues as such, if there is persistent depolarization, it can lead to flaccid paralysis at high enough doses, or if the drug is working for a long enough time, it can lead to flaccid paralysis. Okay, so that is the effect, or that is the mechanism of action of your succinylcholine. Coming to its pharmacological effects on skeletal muscles, obviously like the previous one, if you give IV, onset of action is very rapid. Within 1 minute you will get effects. You will have muscle fasciculations initially, then after that skeletal muscle paralysis will occur, wherein skeletal muscle is completely losing muscle tone and there is paralysis. ठीक है, succinylcholine का disadvantage is that it is very short acting. Once you give the drug, within 5 to 10 minutes it is gone. The effect of the drug is gone. So what you need to do is you have to give continuous infusion of succinylcholine. So as to maintain skeletal muscle relaxation, you have to give a continuous infusion. I hope you know what is continuous infusion. Okay, you create an IV drip and you give it for a prolonged period of time rather than what you call pushing the drug together in a short period of time. You give it for a long period of time. That is infusion. You infuse the drug. On your CVS cardiovascular system, this fellow will initially cause hypotension and bradycardia. After that, what will happen is tachycardia and hypertension will happen, specifically because as you keep giving succinylcholine, at one point of time sympathetic ganglia will get stimulated. So initially it will cause, initially causes hypotension and bradycardia. Okay, ultimately what happens is at one point of time succinylcholine's concentration will start affecting your sympathetic ganglia. Sympathetic stimulation occurs once the drug starts getting accumulated, and ultimately whenever sympathetic ganglia is stimulated, so I'll just write it here, sympathetic ganglia stimulation. If sympathetic ganglia are stimulated, this fellow will lead to hypertension. Okay, hypertension and tachycardia, exactly opposite of what was happening. This can lead to hypertension and tachycardia. Okay, because of sympathetic stimulation. Now, if you give higher dose, very high doses, it can lead to cardiac arrhythmias. So arrhythmias will occur, because of which again a new problem will happen. So this is about the mechanism of action and pharmacological effects of your succinylcholine. I'll get into the adverse effects of succinylcholine and the other drug classes tomorrow. Right? I hope यहाँ तक समझ में आया what is happening. We'll slightly revise what is